On today's episode of Designing Success, I'm going to be talking about the 12 core principles that I see over and over that are the fundamental personal development areas that designers really need to work on when they are at that level where they've been practicing in studio, as in servicing clients for a couple of years. They've got generally pretty good bookings coming in. Often they're exhausted because they're still sending emails late at night. They're working in a way that's pretty demanding. They're exhausted. Their revenue can be up, but their nervous system is short. They're sort of feeling like they're possibly undercharging. They're fragile in that area because they're sort of not quite sure. I mean, we don't know what other people are doing, and we don't run other people's studios, so it's none of our business what they charge, but sometimes there is a gap that leaves a lot on the table. And I don't think it's got anything to do with talent. I think what happens is we organically, and I talk about this all the time, our businesses organically grow, and all of a sudden you're running quite a successful business. You've hit 10K months or beyond, definitely, and you've got big projects and you've got decent systems and you've got beautiful templates. You've got all this stuff saved, but that next level, knowing what deliberate shifts you need to put into play to be able to step into the CEO role as opposed to sort of the best designer in the room and the one who does all the documentation and sends all the onboarding stuff and raises the invoice, follows up all of the inquiry, does the in-home consult. It's pretty incredible. And when I was redesigning the Framework Express into Studio CEO, there are a few elements that I thought, those are things that we need to work on as designers, things like confidence, self-worth, imposter syndrome, but they don't make up one of the core weeks because I don't think that they are some of the core fundamental things that you need to work on from a personal development perspective, the way the ones I'm going to share with you today are. There are also some habits that I see come up time and time again. So creators consuming content, but not really evolving their behavior, or having these beautiful resources, as I say, sitting unused, or courses that you've signed up for and things, free webinars that you've downloaded, but we just don't have the time. We know how time poor, I know how time poor you are. I've run a design studio for nearly 8 years now, and I struggle to have time for the one client at a time that I currently have. And I can only remember and reminisce, sometimes fondly and sometimes feeling like I want to pull my hair out at having so many multiple projects in the pipeline at once. I feel like we are definitely in technician mode and not CEO mode. And so the growth becomes really difficult because it's hard to see beyond, well, who's going to do that work? You can't scale what you're not examining, breaking apart, and learning a better way to move forward. So hopefully today, if you're listening and you're really thinking for 2026, where should I focus my attention? What is the development areas that I could really benefit from pointing some attention, whether that's business coaching, whether that's literally upskilling, whether that's even just working with ChatGPT one afternoon and saying, hey, here's 2 areas I've identified as personal growth opportunities for me, and I want you to workshop them with me. So you don't have to always go in the one pathway. It's really about what works for you. But more than that, it's not what you will learn, it's what you will implement. So it's all about action. I am so solution focused and always okay, cool, great story, but how do we put it into play? How is that actually going to have a return on investment if you don't action it? Okay, so I'm going to get into the core level ups that you need. These are not necessarily the things we do week by week in Studio CEO, but they're more the transformations that I see throughout group coaching and personal coaching or one-on-one coaching is these are the 12 things that we need to do. So the first is to move from technician to CEO. So become the decision maker, not just the designer. Think about margin over revenue. It's easy to be oh my gosh, we made X amount last year, but we really need to think strategically, how much of that was expenses, how much of that was profit, how much of that was reinvested, and really look at the numbers properly. Think about business sustainability and structure. How are we going to get to that next level? What are we building now in our business that is going to anticipate the next moves and what we're going to need for our future business? I think we also need to focus on changing from a yes to everybody to becoming a positioned specialist. So this is, yes, some people just say that's kind of just working on your niche, but not always. There comes a point in your business, especially around that 3-4 year mark, where you really know what your wheelhouse is. You know where you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to be doing. I feel for me, I definitely saw that the business and marketing experience that I had from my former senior leadership role in corporate was really coming out. I had a lot of designers dropping into my DMs, asking my opinion on this. Should I put my pricing on my website? What would you do about this? And it organically just started to tap me on the shoulder. I ignored it for 2 or 3 years longer than I should, in the same way that when I started using AI in 2022, I ignored that for longer than I should. I knew there was a huge opportunity, specifically in the very early days, to come out and just hit the ground running and be a leader in this space. But I was like, but wait, I've got design clients and I run a course and I love what I do. And I just was slow to market because I was resistant about becoming that, robot nerd. You will hear those little knocks in your career and you will feel like something is tapping at you. Right now, you might be listening and going, yes, I have a calling that I'm ignoring. Please don't talk about it. So moving from a yes to everybody to becoming a specialist and positioning yourself in the wheelhouse that you want to be known in is really an important growth piece. I think also holding a mirror to what you're doing in your business, where you're actually at, and being wildly specific and understanding it, it increases your authority, but it helps you to close more projects and sell yourself better, and deeply understanding your brand, deeply understanding your direction. These things always increase your authority and help you to become a better business owner and a CEO. When we increase our authority, we increase our margin, we increase our profitability, we're able to enhance our revenue stream opportunities, start doing some keynote speeches or workshops. That's not for everybody, but you might go after some commercial jobs, or you might be able to scale in a different way that's relevant to your business. I spoke about sort of revenue and margin there, but I think knowing your numbers is a huge one. It's knowing that turnover is loud. Talking about that gross number or that whole number is, it sounds like a flex, but real margin and real profitability is quiet. It allows you to assess your hourly billable hours versus non-billable hours. It allows you to make CEO level decisions about which of your services is the most profitable, which ones are the most enjoyable, how you can improve some so they're quicker turnaround, which ones are low-hanging fruit, which ones do you put all your marketing energy in, and how. So I think just really understanding that revenue versus margin piece and how you affect that and how you actually pull those different levers in your business to make sure that everything is covered. I think the next core principle is where our businesses go from being reactive to structured. So calm businesses outperform frantic, busy as a badge businesses every day of the week. It's about understanding phases of business and seasons of business and boundaries. And even, I talk a lot, I work with a lot of women. I work with a lot of female founders. And so our cycles come into it, and understanding that there are times in the month where we are more productive, and leveraging those and making sure that that's where we book all the big decision stuff, and then being gentle with ourselves when we need to be. So I think being structured over being reactive is a huge CEO shift. It helps you to feel like you have control of your business. You're not just Jesus, take the wheel and holding on and trying not to die. You can actually look seasonally at what happened last year. And when you can sales map, you can look at when you'd like to market certain things, because certain things happen in the industry. You'll see industry leaders often come out. I used to do them. I don't do them anymore because I don't really want to attract that many design clients in. I'd rather work with designers and do what I'm doing in the AI space. But you'll see interior designers come out with their trend reports in the beginning of the year. So if you're ahead of your phases and you know the 2027 trend report needs to be released late December, early January for you to have finger on the pulse, then you're going to start doing some serious research around what's happening at the Milan Design Show, what's happening here, there, and everywhere throughout the course of the year, and parking it in a Google Drive so that it is good to go and that you can have some strong ideas about what actually is forecast to be trending in 2027. There's literally no point in you coming out with this huge document that you made up that doesn't make sense, that isn't actually on trend and doesn't bring any thought leadership to the table. The next core shift is huge. I'm going to say it's all about stopping reinventing the wheel every single time you do something. If you touch a particular task twice, we can automate it. AI is everywhere. It's in everything you use. I don't care. Even if you're listening and you're someone that's like, I have, ethical or otherwise reasons why I'm not touching it. I'm sorry, you are touching it. Whether you want to or not, AI is everywhere. And we're people who are drafting things from scratch. Repetition is like business friction. It's not a good thing. Leadership is about identifying those systems that can support that and stepping away from that day-to-day admin role. We didn't sign up for that. It's a part of running a business, sure, but it is a part that we can now assign to AI in such a monumentous way. It is so able to handle your repetition, your standard processes. It can handle it just as much as a human employee. There are tools already built for your creative businesses. I build them myself. There are GPTs, which are at best basic AI, but many people are not ready for the next step. I'd love to teach you more advanced things, more about working with all sorts of AI agents and coding. And there's such cool stuff out there, but most designers that I speak to aren't even ready to put this stuff into their businesses. So they can't get to that next step. And I really feel like this is where we're holding ourselves back the most. If you can get some support, if you can get some education around what's in the market, what could help your studio specifically and what you need. That's why being wildly specific, like I mentioned earlier in like the second transformation, and really understanding your direction and your brand and your business and your studio can help you identify exactly where AI can step in and support you. The next one is a big one. We always talk about control, or I talk a lot to designers and about myself as a designer and that deep sense of need for control. And the next shift is when we go from doing to delegating and actually understand that delegation is not just hiring. Some things could go to a team, some things could go offshore, some things could go in the bin, get in the bin. I do not want to do, but I've just been doing it because I used to do it. Some things can definitely go to AI and automation. We can just set up a repeatable task that happens without you being there. That's a thing. That's a very easy thing to do. But if everything flows through you and you hold everything in your brain, you feel great, like you're indisposable and you're so instrumental to your business, and it feeds your ego. But ego has no place in business. Ego is the worst thing you can have in business. And trust me on this, the second that you get that support, you can be more creative. You can onboard more clients. You can do better projects because you're not head in your hands thinking, oh my God, how am I going to get this all done? I've got to get this email, like all these emails out and all these quotes done. And I need to, finalize logistics on this. And this is going into this project and everything's flying around here. And it's not sustainable. Eventually you will just put your head in your hands and cry. Like, it's not going to be something you can do long term. It's okay if you've done it up until here, but I am telling you there is such a better way. These are the 12 areas that if you focus on and you skill develop in these areas, you will notice it in the front end of your business, and so will your clients, and so will just basically your family, everyone you interact with, because you will walk with a different demeanor. You will show up with different energy because you will feel like, finally, there's some breathing space in my business. Okay, which kind of leads into the next one. The next core transformation you need to make is going from scattered to focused. And I am not throwing shade here. I'm not talking about people like, well, hang on, I can't help it. I have ADHD. I like to think across many different parameters when I'm considering projects and whatnot. It's nothing to do with that. It is all about simplifying your offers. Before a studio can scale, it really has to simplify. You have to think about fewer offers that are way more targeted. A targeted offer calls in so many more of your ideal clients. It helps you have cleaner direction. You know exactly what you're doing. It's like depth over distraction, and actually going, what I do so well when I renovate heritage homes, and knowing that's back to specialization and niching, and knowing I do whole house renovations, or my wheelhouse and my expertise and where I shine is when I'm given a project that looks like designing your offers that way, rather than listing everything you were qualified to do when you came out of interior design school, because that's a heck of a lot. So just because we're capable doesn't mean we need to list it on our website. It's, it may never light you up. You may never do it. It might be something that you were skilled to do in your design course that you never put into play, and that's so fine. You do not have to do all the things. Okay, this next one is a bit of tough love, and it's always the hardest but best week in terms of the best result, the best return on investment. And that is when we talk about pricing. For anyone listening who's sort of thinking about these core elements, it's going from self-doubt to full-on pricing conviction. Like this is an excellent deal for my clients in terms of the value that they gain and the transformation that will happen to the project. Pricing is all about identity, and that's why we get stuck in it sometimes if we are lacking confidence or we struggle with self-worth or self-identity. The conviction is built through proof. I find like the more projects you do, like the first time you get a yes to a 5-figure invoice, the first time someone paid you over $10,000, that became precedent for you where you were like, you know what, I'm a designer who could charge tens of thousands of dollars for a project. It's a big moment. When I've coached girls right from like starting their design business, I am always like, please call me when you get that first one across the line because I celebrate with you. I think that really helps because your confidence is built by the proof that you can ask for that or you can receive it or people will say yes to you for that. And you have to keep challenging that and proving that over and over. So you have to get, for whatever reason, we just feel like we need those yeses to validate that that's a possibility for us in our business. So this shift from self-doubt to full-on pricing conviction is absolutely and non-negotiable. This has to happen for you to get to that next level. And this next one is just as uncomfortable. And again, it's challenging you and it's around going from being hidden to being visible. So authority requires presence. You do need to show up. People need to know who you are. And that doesn't mean you have to get on stage and do a keynote. And it doesn't mean you have to go to every networking thing. And you don't have to be on your Instagram stories all of the time. CEO visibility is leadership. People have to know who is at the helm of this ship. And I feel like I'm going to make a lot of like, are there those metaphors always with business? It's like, who's driving this plane? Who's running this thing? But CEO visibility is important. So you need to, if you really want to step up and we're going to start to scale and you are the face of this, you are the creative director and CEO. Meaning that I know if you're watching this that you probably don't want to give up the creative direction or being the person who is pulling the look together, is coming up with the concepts. You might be the person who's happy to delegate the documentation. And if so, reach out. I have an excellent person that I use for SketchUp and documents and all of my drawings. I don't do them, I outsource them and she's incredible. Hello to Carly if you are listening, but if you want those details, get in contact with me over at Oleander_and_Finch on Instagram or email me. I will point you in her direction. Your visibility is just so important. You just have to be the face of the brand in order to take the brand forward. You cannot hide any longer. Okay, this one kind of goes back to earlier where we felt like, I was saying it was a bit of a like hold the wheel moment. I don't know what's going on, that frantic energy. So the other shift that you need to make is to go from survival energy to strategic energy. So that's like reactive again, urgency and cash flow issues, feast and famine and feeling like, oh my God, how are we going to survive? How am I going to pay the mortgage? Versus strategy, planning, knowing, having incredible double down faith that the business will come. My job is to market my strengths, what makes me different in the market, is to hold my nerve, is to know the next project's coming, but to like call in that project. What is it? Is it a large scale commercial job? Is it a huge residential full renovation? I really want you to think about that strategic side of things versus the survival side, because if you're strategic and you put the right things into place, it comes. Like we know that. Being in business a long time, never really been able to forecast or see more than 3 months ahead at any given time. And here we are, year on year, growth. And it's all about just holding your nerve, being strategic, anticipating, planning, forecasting, not waiting for things to happen to you and then reacting with like putting out spot fires, feeling urgent, feeling frantic. They are not calm, easy businesses to run. That is where you do get that feeling. And I would say to you like, oh, how are you? How's business? And the ones that add to like, oh, it's a bit like, they sort of know, versus the ones that are like, oh my gosh, I'm so busy. You wouldn't even believe it. I've got this. If that sounds like how you're answering, you might be stuck in survival energy. And, I'd love to see you focus on that developmental area of moving into being more strategic. I feel like I'm picking on everyone. Like, you're frantic, you're scrambled, you need to calm down. But this next one is sort of similar. And where we see a shift between fear-led behavior and CEO decisions. So, comfort is expensive. It just is. Like, if you're willing to just sit there and not put yourself out of your comfort zone and not do something incredibly scary and not financially invest, like even just investing in, say, 12 weeks business coaching, I've kept it as affordable as it can possibly be. I'm putting the next round in May up. I'm probably even doubling it because it quadruple delivers, and it's still wildly underpriced for what it is. I think staying comfortable is expensive. I think you have to get some skin in the game. I think you have to step up and say, I'm willing to do some work. I want to be held accountable, but I want direction. Like, I want someone to help me, but I'm absolutely willing to show up and fight for this business and make these core transformations to turn myself into a CEO running a business, not a business running me as a worker. Like, you want to go from worker bee to queen bee. I always say that, but it's so true. When you make that shift and you start running from that CEO lens, you're running an actual business. You're making risky decisions, business decisions. If you change your pricing, if your pricing gets identified and flagged, like the one, like literally less than 10 days ago, I was in a call for Studio CEO and it was pricing week. And one of the girls, we tripled her pricing. And the other one had been in the industry a long time, like long time. And both hugely talented, both undercharging in certain areas. So being able to identify that person needed to raise their rates in this way for these types of jobs. That person's initial consult was crazy underpriced. This person, so it's very specific to what's going on. But if you get that right, you claw back the cost of any investment, any big scary leap that you make just by putting in the right implementation and changing the way you approach the next 4 years of business, for example. If you stop listening to the fear and start listening to the direction, you can align everything you do with where you're going. The next transformation is moving from consuming to actually implementing. So information into transformation. So all those courses, all those webinars, all those things, execution is the major shift there. It's the thing that takes it from something that you've downloaded, that's in a folder, that's in a to be read list, all those business books that you've got stacked up that look pretty in your studio, but you've never really opened. Like, honestly, if you're feeling guilt about that, here's a little trick for you that I do all the time. Sometimes I'm like, I'm so busy. And I also read over 100 books a year on audio, listen to on double speed audiobooks, mostly thrillers, usually fiction, nothing to do with business. I find the business ones are to put me to sleep. So I will go into ChatGPT and I'll say, here's a book that's been on my path for ages. I really love what I read on the back, on the blurb. Can you give me a too long didn't read, core takeaways, key principles, things you could implement quickly into a 3-page document that I can just kind of absorb? No, it won't be as good as the learnings inside the long form book, but it's better than not reading the book and just having it sit there judging me from the bookshelf. Business growth is deeply personal. Like, some of those things might have felt like, I feel attacked. And I often get those messages after these types of podcast episodes where it's like, I feel personally attacked, like you're having a go at me, but I'm really not. I'm talking to us collectively because I've been through these shifts myself. I have witnessed and coached hundreds of designers through this. So if you feel friction, if you feel attacked, you're probably on the precipice of a growth point yourself. Your studio can only grow to the level you're willing to grow to. And as I say, it's really personal. It's your own collection. Like, every time I do a CEO review, which I do inside of Studio CEO, I can immediately see which are the areas of development that would best suit you to work on. It's not always what you think. You might come into the course and be like, because I really need to upskill marketing. And then I'm like, wow, your marketing is a quick fix. We can work on that. Sure thing. But here's a gaping hole in what is happening that you're not even aware of. Or like, here's something that you need to put the development of this under pressure. It's time sensitive. You need to get going on this topic because it's holding you back exponentially. So as I said, those are core principles. Those are not the 12 weeks. They're just attributes that I see when you change from the first thing that I mentioned into the second kinds of behaviors. Your studio just starts to outperform how it's performed ever before. It's just, there's something about it. You can also fall back in love. We get tired and anxious and resentful of studios that aren't running well. So if you want to reclaim the passion for the business that you started in the first place, there comes a time where you almost have to go, okay, I definitely need coaching. I need some help. I need to look into implementing AI or doing something fresh so I can have those fresh feelings. So those are the core principles. That's not how Studio CEO is delivered. Studio CEO is not a course. It is business coaching split out over 12 weeks, 10 topics. Each week we go through and implement in real time. We do feedback. We have all the tools, all the AI things. There's screen sharing. There's sharing. There's often tiers. There's only 5 founders allowed in each cohort. So it's intimate and small and special because we share commercially sensitive information and we share a lot inside. So the weeks are really structured. The first week is a leadership mirror week where we just sort of go through it. Where are you at? Where are you currently at? It's holding up a mirror to the current state of affairs in the business so we can see what needs to be done. The second week, we implement all the AI GPTs, and it's called the boardroom upgrade because we go in and we learn everything AI and put it into your business. Week 3 is the revenue reset. It's pricing week. We're going to get really honest, and then we're going to make big changes. Not always. Sometimes it's good to just validate, yes, you're on track, but what are we going to do? What is the timeline to increase those prices as we go forward or get better jobs or build more revenue and more sustainable income? Like there's all sorts of things we work on. Week 4 is around offer maturity. So looking at, again, how I said you have to seriously strip back what you offer and make it amazing to call in all the right clients and not be busy and confusing. Week 5, we're going to actually look at things like your website positioning, your branding, and how we implement AEO and GEO, which is the new SEO for large language models and whatnot that are scraping your website. So I have a lot of obviously experience in that because that's my wheelhouse. I've put a lot of time and energy in understanding how AI specifically is searching for you and how you show up in ChatGPT. So I'm going to help you to do that because I don't think that interior designers as a whole have been able to spend much time nerding out on that kind of stuff. Week 6 is our operational backbone, SOPs. It sounds boring. I have AI tools that write them for you. You just have to go in and read them. We also divide and conquer. We each take 15 of them and a group of 5, and the next minute you've got 100 or you've got 132. We split it out, right? Between 6 people doing 10 or 15 each. It takes them about 20 minutes to do their part each, and they all get the master library, and then they all edit it relevant to their businesses. So it just works so well. Week 7, we have it's called the content operating system, and that's where we really think about making marketing easy again, making you, I feel like Trump then, I shouldn't have said it like that, make content great again. I did not mean it like that. I meant more, we want to fall back in love with doing the content. I don't want it to be a drainer. So there's a specific framework that I teach. It's a signature content planning style. We build a system inside of ChatGPT that knows you and speaks exactly like you, and that's where you do all of your content so it gets stronger and stronger. Week 7 is just going to change everything if you're feeling resistant to marketing in any way. Week 8, your digital lead architecture. It's really where I talk about the realities of what platforms you're showing up digitally, what you're currently doing versus where the opportunity is, and what should the digital strategy for your business actually look like. We waste a lot of energy in digital marketing that's not required. Because week 9, we talk about the postcode playbook, which is that your next job is probably located between 10 and 20 minutes from your home. So that's where all your energy should be from a marketing perspective. It doesn't make a lot of sense to spend all of your time digitally marketing to people who reside well and truly outside of your catchment zone where you could do all your best work. Week 10 is about automations, delegations, looking at all sorts of support, staff, growth, what we can do, what we need to do, and really assessing that side of the business. And then week 11 is my favorite. That is the leadership shift. That is where we pull it all together, and we very much like what this exact podcast is about. I may even add this podcast as a resource link at the bottom of week 11 to say, listen back and see your own growth, see how you've changed in all of these 12 core areas, even though that's not exactly what we did week by week. Then week 12, it's just the long game. We plan for the future because when the container's over, your mindset has shifted, your level has increased, but I don't explode, I don't go away. You still need support. There's still women around you that know your business intimately. Most of the girls continue to meet weekly and have co-working sessions. business is a long game. 12 weeks is not like I put in 12 weeks effort and I never have to do anything again. Some people I know have gotten to week 12 and started at week 1 again and gone back through each topic and just continued to do that for a whole year. So 4 quarters of 12 weeks. So 4 times on pricing, 4 times on digital marketing, 4 times on local. It compounds, and it's a really great way to approach it. You get to keep all of the lessons and things that we have done together collectively, like the sorts of coaching notes and all that sort of stuff. So you can just go back and keep implementing. So Studio CEO, it's not like courses that you've seen before. It's not self-managed. You don't have to go away and find all this stuff, but you do have to commit to a 90-minute call and about an hour's homework a week. So if that's something that's manageable with your current client load, the next cohort starts on the 23rd of March. It finishes in May. So by winter, you will be running a CEO level studio, no longer just like giving yourself permission to stay small for whatever reason that's happening everywhere I look. I think it is time that we, like, if any of this, as I say, makes you feel attacked, makes you feel seen, you might just be hitting the exact level that needs to level up again and go to from 10K months to 30K months, or like really starting to pitch for large projects and go out and actively call in the clients that you want to be working with and the projects that you want. And if that's the case, I have 3 places left at the time of recording. It's the 2nd of March, so you'll be listening to this in a couple of days' time. So I'm sure there are definitely still places left. We don't kick off until the 23rd of March, so you have time to get yourself, plot out those 90-minute appointments in your calendar and get excited, because this is an exciting shift. It isn't something that you should feel is like, oh, yeah, I've got to do this course. You don't do the course. You join us in the coaching, and the course kind of does itself along the way. If you've resonated with any of this, I hope that I'll be working with you this year. And don't forget, this is the last time that this particular level or price level exists for Studio CEO. It's $2,997 plus GST for the whole 12 weeks. Every one of the AI assistants and all the inclusions, I'm not going to list them. If you're interested in any way on understanding week by week by week what's inside of Studio CEO, I am doing 12 carousels starting tomorrow, the 3rd of March. Every single day we'll explore each of the weeks. A bit like I just gave you a 411, like a quick run through. I'm actually going to, there's like 10 slides per carousel that breaks down the week. So if you are legitimately interested, you can wait until that 12th day and you'll be able to go through and really assess, what are we actually doing here? Because I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. I know I am. I am so proud of every girl that has graduated Studio CEO or formerly the Framework Express, because I can see massive, massive changes in the way they run their business. Okay, that's it from me this week. Thank you for having me in your ears. If you have any questions for me, please come over to Instagram or email me. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I would love to hear what you thought of this episode, if it's helped in any way, if it's given you some motivation to assess those 12 core principles. Please leave a comment, subscribe so you get next week's podcast episode early, and I'll chat to you then. Bye for now.